Hi everybody, welcome to this episode of the Being Politely Rebellious in Pompey video podcast. This week we're joined by the incredible Dom Elton, founder and owner of Mayfield Records. Please remember to like, subscribe and share, and if you haven't already, then follow us on our social media channels. Please enjoy the episode.
For me, it's about an activity that hopefully makes it different. So obviously there was the teaching, and then there was the healthcare, and now music. But it's interesting. I've always loved music. I mean, I'm listening to records, from as young as like 4 or 5. I feel that South is very much my home. Even though I did spend a few years up in Drayton.
South Sea's where your heart is.
So the post office I bought, that's where I used to go.
That's so cool. What is it about Pompey that has kept you here? What is it?
Well, I love the sea. I think if you're born in Hemel, you can't get further away from the coast.
Yeah, you're right. Hi everybody and welcome to Being Politely Rebellious in Pompey. We are here joined by the incredible Dom Elton, who is founder of Mayfield Records. I was wondering, when I was, I've known of Mayfield Records for a very long time. I think if you live in Portsmouth and you don't know about it, then you're probably living under a rock, right? But I did kind of think to myself, especially as an English language graduate, Mayfield Records.
Right.
So, you could take it either way, I'm guessing, in the grand scheme of the things that you do.
I think when we founded, the Mayfield term actually predates the studio.
Right.
It was my band. And the band was derived from soul singer Curtis Mayfield. But when I had the idea of creating studio space, I had in the back of my mind I'd like to have a kind of label aspect, so it was just an obvious thing to do to go with Mayfield Records. Interestingly enough, the new property that we're building, the new studio, I didn't want to have it Mayfield Records on the side because I didn't want people to think it's a record shop.
Especially location-wise, that could be easily
because it's a commercial entity. So I don't want people coming and saying, "Oh, can I buy it?" So we've got the Mayfield Music. So there are sort of connotations. You've got Mayfield Records, Mayfield Music, Mayfield Studios, Mayfield House Band.
Okay, amazing. So it's a whole group of beautiful things that are happening.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, the legal entity with Companies House is Mayfield Records Limited.
But then you've got all the offsets that come off of that and all the passion projects as well as the things that pay the bills, right? So tell us about your early life. I'm really intrigued to know. So where were you born? Where did you grow up? Tell us about those kind of first, I guess your childhood really.
I was born in Hemel Hempstead.
Okay, Is that north of London?
No, it's Hertfordshire.
Hertfordshire.
It's not Hampstead. That's a
completely
different.
That's
a different entity.
Let's not get that mixed up.
If you know Hemel, they're quite different. But Hemel, I was keen to leave there at my earliest opportunity.
Right.
And I did that by going to university.
Okay.
Music's always been a passion, but I realised it weren't going to pay the bills.
It's the hardest part, I think, of being a musician, right?
Yes.
Not that I am a musician, just that I've gathered from being a human on the planet.
Well, there's always a desire to be involved in music full time, but it weren't going to happen
overnight.
No, it's just taken me like 40 years to get there. So, I mean, my other sort of interest at school was science.
Okay.
Particularly biology.
Wow.
And it's interesting now that I'm working with flowers and plants with the gardening. So I actually went to uni to study animal physiology and plant physiology. And from that, I then became a biology teacher.
Wow. Oh my God, you're like man of mystery.
So I was a science teacher for several years. Secondary, which is why I'm not doing it now. It was hard. Really hard.
How long did you do that for?
I did it several years. So I did 3 years in Essex, Colchester, and then in my sort of mid late 20s, I had a desire to travel. So I actually went and taught in South America for 2 years in Colombia.
That must have been interesting.
That was brilliant.
Yeah.
So I was actually reconnected with music there, and I played in a band in Bogota. We played in bars downtown Bogota
so cool.
in Colombia, and it was a lovely school.
Yeah.
It was a really lovely school. It's called the English School.
Yeah. Was it in a like deprived area, or were they sort of like paying for their education?
It was a private setup. It was basically children would come in at the age of like 3 or 4. I was part of the secondary department, but their teaching would be half English and half Spanish. So the idea they would leave
knowing both.
Yeah,
right.
Completely bilingual. So they would recruit English-speaking teachers from around the world.
Yeah.
So there were, Americans, Australians, English. Yeah, it was a lovely school. Yeah, I mean, it was a troubled city for sure. I'm not sure what it's like now.
Yeah.
But it was an eye opener.
Yeah, I bet.
And
that switch up between teaching in the UK to then teaching in South America, like what a transition. Did you then go on to carry on travelling, or did you do the couple of years teaching and come back to the UK?
Well, I was there with my first wife. She was an art teacher.
Oh wow.
And we actually conceived Francesca out there. So Francesca, my daughter, she spent her first 6 months in South America.
Oh, wow.
So really, we had to come back to the UK for family commitments. So we ended up moving to North London, where Dawn's family were based, and I ended up working in a school in North London for another year or so. I realised at that point that teaching wasn't for me.
Yeah. Like long term.
Yeah, so I actually got into healthcare.
Wow.
Because I mean that is an interest alongside the animal.
The science.
Yeah.
And...
So I ended up working for a pharmaceutical company. And I was involved in sort of sales of various medical products.
That must have been an eye opener as well.
Yeah, we launched a new cancer treatment. As a team, and I was out there basically promoting that.
Yeah.
But in the back of my mind, I was thinking I really want to run my own business, but it's such a big step to take.
Yeah.
So I was kind of,
especially if you're then at the point where you're a dad and you've got a family, it becomes an even bigger risk, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I literally left the job in teaching and then found this job with the pharmaceutical company within a couple of weeks. In promoting the oncology drugs, we worked alongside a company called Healthcare at Home.
Okay.
And they were innovative at the time, and they had a service where they would deliver the chemotherapy product at patients' homes, and that got me thinking about healthcare delivery and how it could be done differently to
the norm day by day.
Yeah. So and I was also involved in some cardiovascular drugs as well. So it was around that time, I guess 2-3 years into working with the company, that I had an idea about cardiac ultrasound.
Wow. And cardiac, for those that don't understand, that's heart, right?
Yeah, that's to do with heart. So around that time, I mean, obviously you know about ultrasound, baby ultrasound, big machines, probe, jelly. Obviously the same applies for heart
organs and things as well.
Yeah,
right?
of course. Yeah. So for the heart ultrasound, it's actually called echocardiography.
Right. Wow.
And they were performed on big.
Machines.
Big machines. But around that time, on the market was, were coming through these smaller machines, almost laptop sized.
Wow.
And at the time, waiting times were very long. You could wait up for a year to get a heart scan. So
it's probably not much different now, is it?
Unfortunately, it's gone back to that. Yeah. With underfunding.
We could digress, but we shan't.
Don't get me on that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm passionate about the NHS.
Yeah.
What we created was a service that we could was dedicated to the NHS. But although we were an independent sector provider, we would only exclusively provide our services to the NHS.
Right.
But we were a service that the NHS couldn't do, because what we created was what we called the echo units, which was a sonographer, the machine, and they would go around in different communities, cross boundaries, if you
Yeah.
like, PCT, Primary Care Trust,
Yeah.
and deliver these ultrasound services in the community.
Oh wow.
So they would-
So like you would go and get you used to be able, it's not, and I know this isn't as common now, but you used to like go to say the local church or community centre to get your baby weighed. So like you could go to a local venue and
Yeah.
have your heart scanned.
They were all NHS buildings.
Yeah.
So they were health
Ah.
centres, surgeries,
Okay.
community hospitals,
Yeah, yeah.
everywhere and anywhere that's outside the hospital
Yeah.
setting.
Yeah.
Um,
To reduce the waiting list.
to do,
basically.
yeah,
Oh, that's smart.
our average waits were about 2 weeks.
Wow.
And also the service provided close to the patient's home, so they're more
Yeah.
convenient.
Yeah.
Because we created a really lean model,
Mm.
we could actually charge the NHS less than the tariff, but pay our staff more.
Than what they would earn working for the
Yes,
NHS.
so it really worked, you know.
And is that something you ended up doing as a business?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so at this point you were out there, self-employed, running the show.
It was a big gamble
Yeah.
because for me, I've always been motivated by the activity, not
Yeah.
about money
Yeah,
at
yeah,
all.
yeah.
If then money follows, for me that would be a bonus.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was at a stage when I thought, well, that this is being really untried.
Mm.
Even the machines weren't actually quite ready.
Yeah.
And the other thing we faced, because all the scans were done remotely, what you would lack is a peer review setup in a hospital.
Okay.
But we eventually took on this service. Actually, the company were based in New York, and it was a way that ultrasound images could be uploaded in real time and shared in real time.
Wow. So now that's not hard to fathom, right? That's something that would be quite easy. But we're talking how many years ago? 20 years?
About 15 years.
Yeah. So you couldn't even screenshot, by the way, 15 years ago,
Yeah.
you know. So
But
yeah.
it was 4G had just come along, and you were able to be in a clinic. You could be
Yeah.
literally in the middle of a field,
Yeah.
scanning someone's heart, and their images
Upload it.
can be shared.
Game-changing.
So we ended up developing a peer review system that was
Yeah.
way beyond NHS.
Yeah.
We'd get 50% of scans would be reviewed and also scored between 1 and 5.
Okay. So is to score and
The quality control.
to make sure, yeah, that the people that were doing the scans
Yeah.
were coming to the right diagnoses and
Absolutely.
that kind of stuff. Right, okay, makes sense.
No, eventually we had 70 staff around the country.
Wow.
We had a clinical lead who's a cardiologist based in
Wow.
London. Yeah, it was a big setup.
Then tell me what happened with that. Where did that business go?
Well, there's a number of factors involved
Yeah.
here. I actually created the business
Yeah.
with my then second wife,
Right.
but we actually split up
Okay.
and really it became untenable
Yeah.
to run the business together.
Understandable.
Yep. But this business was at a size where we really needed to sell it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
There were some shareholders that were getting a bit impatient.
Yeah.
I was still paying the staff myself,
Yeah.
end of the
Yeah.
month. So the HR needed a bigger setup,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
So we ended up selling it to a larger
Wow.
healthcare business.
Wow.
And they just took it on, and I worked for them for a few more months with a
During the handover.
with a handover.
Yeah.
and
So typically when somebody sells a business, and again, just as a bit of a education platform
Yeah.
here, when you sell a business, it's very, very common for the founders in some way, shape or form
Yeah.
to stay on during a handover period to ensure smooth takeover.
Yeah.
And then also, whilst you can go through as much black and white paperwork and accounting and everything as possible, it kind of ensures that genuine handover as well, right? With regards to the staffing and the accounting. So, yeah.
It was frustrating. My whole focus on the business was looking after the staff and also looking after the patients.
Yeah.
They were the
Wow.
they were the two.
God, you must have been so passionate.
Yeah, they were the two. Going right back to the beginning.
Yeah.
To buy the first machine,
Yeah.
I had to wait for. I've never received any funds or
Yeah.
money.
Yeah.
Apart from when my father died, he left all of the siblings
Yeah.
50,000.
Yeah.
I bought an ultrasound machine with that money.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can't imagine there was any change.
So it's quite an unusual kind of thing to do with the only
of course
money.
it is.
But that was how passionate I was about how this could happen.
Yeah.
And it was a gamble.
Yeah.
I also remortgaged for a year
Yeah.
so that I could work on developing the business model. But then within a few years we had like 50 machines all around the country.
Isn't it a funny one? Because I was talking to somebody about this recently. I had an fellow entrepreneur on for Series 2, and we were saying that I don't gamble, and he himself, he doesn't gamble. He used to back in his early days, but he doesn't gamble anymore. And yet, actually, as an entrepreneur, everything you do is a massive gamble, right? It's taking those risks, it's investing that money, and you might believe in something with all of your heart and soul, but there's no guarantee that money's going to come back.
Well, I'm going through the same process now, so this is a perpetual situation. I mean, is
it an addiction?
No, I mean, I've never gambled in my life.
Yeah, same. Yeah. I've done the lottery once, didn't win, and was like, right, I'm not doing that.
I've never stepped in a betting shop, even though we're now next door to one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Ladbrokes. I mean, for me, those odds are not good enough.
Favour.
For me, it's about an activity that hopefully makes a difference. So obviously there was the teaching, and then there was the healthcare, and now music. But it's interesting, having sold Ecotech, which was the name of the company, it then basically gave me the sort of the funding,
the foundation
to then get into music.
Wow.
So that's why I said it took me that long.
To get there.
Because all along that way, I was obviously playing music. I was involved in various bands.
Yeah. So where did music start for you? So I know as a career and as a full-time job, that's something that we'll come to.
Yeah.
But where did it start for you as say a young boy?
Well, my dad.
Yeah.
I mentioned just a while ago.
Yeah.
He played piano.
Yeah.
And he played the organ in church. In the church. So I'd go along and sit next to him sometimes in the church, and then eventually, I think at the age of about 9 or 10, I started piano lessons.
Right.
So that's when I got the bug, really. I've always loved music. I mean, listening to records, from as young as like 4 or 5.
Yeah. And do you feel that music's always come naturally to you? So when you started your piano lessons, was it something that came naturally, or was it quite a painful process?
It evolved to become more natural. I think what I got, the piano lessons back then, they were quite structured. Yeah. And
was it Tchaikovsky and a bit of Mozart?
Yeah, they would all be classical based.
Yeah, not the blues or anything particularly fun.
No, and I didn't actually start learning about music and keys and chords and all that sort of thing until I was about 14. I joined a band at school.
Right.
And at that point, I gave up the piano lessons because I thought, that's not doing it for me.
Yeah.
So as soon as I was about 14, you'd be working out on a song, and it's like, what's that chord? Oh yeah, and that's when you start learning about music, really. Before I was just reading the dots, not really fully understanding what those dots were.
But hoping it would kind of come together. Yeah. It's an interesting one, because I suppose back when you were younger, you didn't have the beauty of YouTube and things, right?
No.
So, like, my son's 11, and we'll speak more about him off camera, so we don't keep boring you all with the details of my child. We'll hear about Dom. Yeah. But my son is 11, and he is a musician.
Oh, brilliant!
He's a phenomenal musician.
Wow!
And I'm not just saying that because he's my son. And we switched to home education 2 years ago, so as he could embed himself more into that. He plays the drums, he plays piano, he plays guitar. And what's really interesting is that he's had drum lessons since he was 3, because he was just, teetering around the kitchen, like banging things. And I was like, I think there's something in this, when he's actually playing We Will Rock You at 3 years old on the pans and getting it right. But then with piano, he's self-taught, and guitar, he has lessons, but the beauty of YouTube for his learning is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I think that if you have music inside of you and you have the ability to see the chords without kind of being taught exactly what it all means, I think that's just something that kind of comes from inside, right?
That's more intuitive.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah,
and maybe
that
if
makes
you'd
sense.
have had access to all of that technology when you were younger, how quickly that might have grown,
Absolutely. I mean, the only opportunity that way would be to be working with other, your mates.
Yeah.
Sat around with the guitar and the piano.
And so did you meet like-minded individuals, you said, when you were like 14, so people who also loved music, and then that's you kind of started bringing the best out of each other?
Yeah, no, I mean, the guy that I formed a band with, he's still a really good friend, you know.
Yeah.
Spoke to me the other day,
Aww.
and he plays.
Yeah.
He still plays.
Amazing.
But, you know, like I say, it was always there, and it was always the back of my mind. Eventually, I want to be involved in music day to day, and so it's taken
a long time to get there. You kind of had to play the game of adult life to get there.
It's still massive challenges, you know. I mean, the next month, well, no, this month actually, next week will be 10 years.
Wow.
Of Mayfield
Since you founded.
So I registered the company on the 14th of October. 2014. But the studio for the last X number of years has been in a kind of residential setup, just up the road.
In Drayton. Well, this is the funny thing, we were neighbours for like 8 years. So I live on Uplands.
Yeah, I know Uplands.
Yeah, so literally I would walk past your house. I always knew that was where Mayfield was.
Oh, really?
Because you had the logo outside.
You used to come along and knock on the door.
Anxiety just wouldn't let me, but here we are. And then actually, when you put the house up for sale, we were like, right, how many organs can we sell? Kidneys, livers, like what can we sell? Because taking my son into consideration, it was like the perfect property, and what a setup you had there. Was that a really big decision for you to sell that property and make the transition down to Southsea?
Having run the company for a number of years, I needed to move away from the residential home studio setup, and it took a couple of years to find the right place. But it's not without challenges. I mean, today, you know, we're at a point where, you know, we're about 2 months away from reopening, and funds are drying up.
Yeah, that gap in between.
So,
and you're doing a whole renovation, aren't you?
The whole place was ripped out.
So the property that you sold was on the slopes in Drayton.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful property. By the way, people, I must have looked at it online 4 or 5 times. I was like, how can I get this out? It was like just the style and what you'd done with it was just beautiful.
Yeah.
So then, letting go of that, and then the property that you've now bought in Southsea, is it an old post office?
It's the old post office in Milton.
Wow.
It was called Milton Market.
Yeah.
It's another reason why I like the idea of Mayfield music.
Yeah.
Because it keeps it, you know, sort of similar to kind
the
essence of the old business that was there. Because it was there many years, and you know, you talk to people that come along and they tell you, they know about this. I mean, I used to go myself. I used to live in Eastleigh.
Really. Because I've really enjoyed seeing your posts when you've been posting about the renovation, and you've been using, like, was it the floorboards as the windowsills and like the old post box? It's, you know, you're like revamping and keeping that vintage vibe.
Well, the post box is still active, and those decorations are done by a group of ladies in Portsmouth. Wow. You'll see them on quite a few post boxes. They're brilliant. Yeah. But I call it the Mayfield post box because it was the old post office. But I mean, obviously we had to rip everything out. In fact, where the control room is going to be, there's no floor at the moment. Yeah. The floor arrived this morning.
Wow.
But so where we can, we've upcycled some tongue and groove for the bathroom, and we've obviously had a lot of floorboards had to be ripped up, so we're using them for the window sills. You know? So it's kind of keeping a bit of the fabric of the old, but obviously in a new sort of
modern twist on it.
Yeah, but it's you know, it's festival, you know, but it will be a better proposition, and it's in the heart of Southsea.
Yeah, and I mean, what better place to be when it comes to music? I mean, the music scene in Portsmouth has just gone from strength to strength to strength.
It's an amazing talent. Yeah, I mean, that's why we have the sort of boutique label, because if I can, and it's all my own time, which if there's a song or an artist that I particularly like, then I'll try and do my best in releasing that music. But I mean, again, if there was to be a breakthrough, that would be like a bonus.
Yeah, of course.
It's actually the doing which is what inspires me.
Yeah. And so, how do you make money from that as an organisation? Do you rent out the space?
Right. So the income is basically from recording and rehearsal time.
Yeah. Perfect.
But the one thing we can do now, being down in Southsea with the size of the live room, which is a little bit bigger, and it's a commercial setup, we're going to run some live music events there.
Amazing.
Then there won't be large events.
Yeah, of course.
I mean,
almost like that listening party type vibe.
Yeah, there'll be acoustic kind of setup.
I bet it'll make really cool videos as well.
Yeah, I mean, we've been doing the video stuff for years. I mean, we got Arts Council funding for live streams post lockdown, and that ran for about 3 years.
Wow.
So you'll see on YouTube quite a few of these live streams. But yeah, definitely going to have cameras in situ, but with an actual live audience. I mean, I've worked out we could probably sit in there like 20-25 people. I'm not looking to have a sort of alcohol license or anything like that.
No.
I think the potential we could work with a local brewery. Also bring your own. There's a co-op 2 doors down. You know.
Because did you have at the property that you had in Drayton? Didn't that have like a really cool outdoor festival kind of vibe?
There was a roof terrace.
Yeah.
So I had the Mayfield painted on that. And we did some live stuff up there.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, so we used like a drone and stuff like that.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. So you were born Hemel, Hempstead, Hertfordshire. Right, get it right, share. So when did you make the transition to Pompey?
Right, so that would have been, so I mentioned I was teaching in North London. And then I got this job with a pharmaceutical company. The job that I got was based in Hampshire. So I actually then moved to this area. I think I came on to Southsea one day. I think I initially moved to Southampton for several months, and then I think I was working over in South. I thought this is a cool place. So that's when I decided to move to Southsea, and that's about 25 years ago.
Wow.
So I feel that Southsea is very much my home. Even though I did spend a few years up in Drayton.
Southsea's where your heart is.
Yeah. So the post office bought, that's where I used to go.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
What is it about Pompey that has kept you here? What is it?
Well, I love the sea.
Yeah.
I think if you're born in Hemel, you can't get further away from the coast.
Yeah, you're right.
So holidays were often spent down in Dorset. And also Winchester. My father's family were based in Winchester. So
I mean, to us true Pomponians, that's like north almost, you know. But it is countryside. It's close to the coast, right?
I mean, and so it was always like, one day I want to live by the sea. I mean, I did live on another seaside town when I was teaching in Colchester. I lived in Clacton-on-Sea.
Which is Essex, right?
Which is Essex.
But not quite the same vibe, not quite the same.
And then now I think it's the one seat that Nigel Farage has. Which
Let's not go.
So I'm very pleased. I'm very pleased not to be living there anymore.
Mentioning Nigel Farage actually, and that being one of his, I guess his only babes. I have noticed that you're very passionate about being anti-racism. Where does that stem from?
It forever. I never got it. I never understood it. I mean, obviously, my big passion is soul music.
Right.
So I would say that 90% of the records I listen to are Black American.
Right. So you're one of these people that just doesn't see colour. You're just live and let live. Because what's your profile picture at the moment on socials? It's
Love Music, Hate Racism.
Yes.
Right. So that's an organisation.
Right.
That I was approached a few weeks ago to find out whether there's something the brand could get involved with. I went to a live music event actually. And met some of the guys from the organisation. And one of the other things about our setup down in Southsea, we had to keep the shop windows because of planning. Which is fine because now we've got like a platform to actually put stuff in the window.
Okay, cool.
And I think I'd be keen to use that as an outlet for their sort of merchandise, t-shirts.
That's amazing.
And there's so many people that walk past. I mean, It's going to be a great little kind of a space to advertise.
Especially in the heart of the city, you know. Because I think that Pompey, and I think Pompey showed recently actually with the recent kind of attempt at creating new divides and stuff with the fascism and racism. I think that Pompey done a really good job of showing, you know, unity in amongst the madness. I think the handful of idiots that did rock up and attempt some form of protesting were quickly embarrassed, you know.
I think there was people were expecting something, but thankfully it was quashed.
I think it's too late now. I think that we're, you know, whilst there have always been people like yourself who have clearly had something in their soul that's made them, you know, completely passionate about being anti-racism, I think that actually our city and our country is far too diverse now for anything like that to stick. For the racism stuff to, it's too late, mate. I can't go anywhere. All right.
I just don't get it. I mean, you know, all this talk of, you know, immigrants and what have you. We're all immigrants.
Exactly,
you know,
right?
Get your DNA tested. You know.
Do you think that your time spent in South America kind of embedded that anti-racism in you even more?
Because I didn't even think about it.
Because you must have been the odd one out, so to speak. Do you know what I mean? You must have been going in as a white, blue-eyed boy, you know, in amongst people of colour. That must have been overwhelming, though.
I'll tell you a very weird evening, actually. I was playing in a band. It was a ska band, actually.
Oh, I love a bit of ska.
And this is Colombia here. And during the gig, a group of skinheads came in, Colombian skinheads.
Wow.
Now they were dressed exactly like the British skinheads from the 70s, the Dr. Martens, Fred Perry, the braces, and I felt some tension with them. And then another group of skinheads came in, and they were putting up posters, skinheads against racism.
Wow.
Now then ensued this huge fight between these two groups. Now this is Colombia. Police arrive, they have guns.
Oh.
Right. So we've stopped playing by now.
Like, is there a basement we can hide in?
And then the police basically cleared the whole venue. And the fighting continued, and they were firing their guns in the air. And I'm thinking, this is an odd scenario.
Shop all the latest now at politelyrebellious.co.uk.
That is crazy.
But yeah, it's
what an eye opener.
Yeah. I mean, it was in full Colombia was a big eye opener for me. And of course, you can see that, you know, there's a lot of poverty and homelessness. But a really emotive story, actually. It was around the time there was no mobile phones, and I would walk past these shops pretty much every day to get the lift to get to the school, and I would always, if I had spare change, I would always give a few coins to. I mean, some of these children are like as young as 4 or 5, and they're homeless.
It's crazy.
So I would, if I had spare change, I would obviously give it. Several months passed, and I had to make a call. We had no mobile phones. It was when my wife then was pregnant. I had to speak to her about something, and I'm at this phone box, and I'm like this looking for coins, and there's a little tap on my sort of like bottom of the back of my back, because there's a little lad about 4 or 5. They gave me a coin.
Oh my god, that's so adorable.
I'm like, that's you know, I mean, my eyes whirled out, and I'm just thinking, thank you, and I was able to make that call.
That beautiful thing, how calmly comes back around, but he's got nothing, but he's willing to help you.
It's a story I'll never ever forget. And obviously I carried on and gave them change when I could.
That's incredible.
No, I don't see race. I just don't identify
in that way.
You know.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? I think it's and I think that I think it's a dying philosophy, you know, this kind of whole mantra that some people still choose to live by, of, you know, people who do see colour and do see it as a way of dividing people. I you know, I don't think that it will ever be obsolete, because that's heaven, right? That doesn't exist on earth apparently. But I think that it's a dying trend.
I don't. There's no, Ray, it's not a no. I mean, there are some very, very. There are some pretty nasty people with some pretty nasty
ideals,
views. Yeah. I mean, you know, I have a really low threshold to anything like that. So I saw a post, you know, at time, you know, obviously these crossings that are coming over. You know, but you've got to be escaping something pretty horrible to risk.
Exactly right.
And then I see all these jokey, you know, and I just you know, block people that share that sort of stuff.
And that's the thing, isn't it? If you're willing to jump on a boat, or not even a boat, a dinghy with your child, and cross an ocean, day night, that takes, you know, a long time. It's not because you're wanting to go and get 50 quid a week from the dole money in England. It's because something pretty horrific has happened or is going to happen to you. And I think that's where, I mean, I know that you use the Turkish line and Kurdish line bars next to the JK Wellness store, and Bekas and his family came here from Iraq during the Iraqi war.
Right.
They've got a phenomenal story, not that they tend to, you know, kind of publicise that, but his family are incredible and they're so lovely. Wow. And it's that lack of, me and Bekas will often talk to each other and say, it's that lack of education of people who are too small-minded to maybe go and find out the real reason why people move to different countries. You know, there are times as a British person where I'm like, screw this, I'm paying too much tax, I'm barely keeping my business afloat, I'm going to move to Canada, or I'm going to move, and you know, it's not quite the same as being bombed, but you know, we all have our moments where we're like, screw this system, screw the government, and these people experience that on a far greater scale, and you just need to have a little bit of empathy, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, I see it as one world, not one country. I mean, you know, you look at our history, we've done our fair share of you know, venturing to,
exactly.
But we'd be thrown in things like slavery and colonisation and enforcing a religion onto, you know, vast cultures. I mean, you know, it's
I mean, how lucky are we though, as a city here in Portsmouth, to have somebody like yourself with that mindset and that mantra, running what I see as an outsider is, you know, the best recording space, you know, in Portsmouth. You know, to have somebody at the helm of it who has those idealisations and who has that personality, because you must obviously mix with people in the music industry from all different backgrounds, all different ethnicities, and so to me you feel like a welcome open door, you know, to all of them.
And my band reflects that.
You
know, we did a festival and we had 4 female powerhouse singers on stage, 2 black Americans. Hannah, she's from North Africa originally.
Right. Is that Hannah Reid?
Hannah Reid.
I went to school with Johnny Spade.
Did you?
Yeah. I went to school with him. I haven't seen him for donkeys, but
I saw he came round the other day.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, no, we support his Black Balloon.
Amazing.
With a PA set up. So they're lovely. Lovely couple.
Good. And so what would you say is the thing that you enjoy most about your job? What's your favourite part of what you do? So I know you do a bit of gardening on the side, right? That's to kind of keep the finances topped up, but the passion and the main business is obviously Mayfield Music and Mayfield Records. So what's your favourite thing about what you do?
The creative aspect, So alongside the setup, I have my own house band. That's the band I just mentioned. It's my own vanity thing, really. I mean, you know, at my age, I'm not looking to become famous or anything like that.
But as well as the producing and everything, you like to be able to perform as well.
I love performing and I love creating music. Absolutely, that's the main reason. I mean, that's why I kind of got the studio going in the first place. So the way it works is that I've always got literally one song on the go. And obviously we had paying customers come in, and obviously a team of producers, which are brilliant. Matt, Sam and Sam. So it might be a situation where we've got a client in from 10 till 2, and then there might be an hour gap, and then another. And when there's a gap, I'll run in and say, right, I've got an idea for a piano. Can you just record it? So obviously I'm not going to do that for 5 months because there's no studio.
Oh my god! Like when it's going to be a real like cliche of I guess importance, right? As soon as that studio's open, you're going to need to be getting out there and get paying customers in, but at the same time you're going to be like, I want to be in there.
Well, exactly, but there's a balance because I still have to pay the engineers. So that's how I work it. So they would be there anyway. They've been paid for the full day. And I will just put in, an hour
like
here, and then so basically how it happens is that over a period of time, we complete a song, then there's another, and then there's another, and after a period of about 2-3 years, there's an album, and that's why I managed to release, I think, 5 albums over the last 10 years. By these kind of ad hoc little sessions
that you slip in there.
I can't sing at all, so
do I give it a go?
And I also absolutely terrible at writing lyrics.
Right, okay.
So that's why the house band has evolved to be a collective, because I'll be thinking about this song, who can sing on this song?
Teamwork makes the dream work type vibe.
So basically I think over the years we've had maybe 10 different singers.
Wow.
From all different backgrounds and
all
cultures.
Vibes coming to it.
I mean, obviously the house band is on the soul side, because that's my passion. But I mean, we're obviously exploring to jazz and funk, hip hop, all
was kind of taking the fancy and the vibe at that time. What a cool way to express, your inner creativity. So besides like the house band. Are there any top acts or favourite acts that are sort of up and coming that you've been working with, or that you maybe want to give a shout out to?
I mean, I'm not going to.
It must be hard.
I'm not going to prioritise there's just been a wealth of great people that have come through, and it's as a business, it's not just about song music. So we release music across all genres. Casual Scene are a band that I'm kind of been working with most recently. Hannah Ream, we mentioned her. Going to be releasing a single of hers soon. I actually have co-written a song with her. We haven't actually recorded yet. Although we started to record it, and then the studio
the new pattern.
We did perform it actually at the Victorious.
Amazing.
But there's so many. If you go to Mayfield Records, mayfieldrecords.com, there's a link to all our releases, and you'll see that over the years we've pretty much released most artists that are sort of local. I mean it is a boutique setup. I don't have a team of people that can
take it to the stratosphere necessarily.
No, I mean, there have been some artists that have come and we've released and they've gone on, which is brilliant. Because
but for you, it's music for the love of music.
It's for the here and now. It's been creative, and it's just evolving myself and surrounding myself in good music. And like-minded people.
Amazing.
And like I say, it's always the activity that I'm motivated by, not money. That for some people that is a frustration. But anything that would be lucrative would be a bonus, and that worked with my last business, Ecotech. But it wasn't
it wasn't how it started. That isn't how it.
Not at all.
And sometimes I think as a business owner, it can be easy to lose yourself actually in the arrogance that can come with being financially successful. But actually, I think in the process, a lot of entrepreneurs or wannabe entrepreneurs lose themselves because they forget about where that flame and that fire came from in the first place.
Absolutely. I mean, when we sold the healthcare business, it was clear, I'm not going to mention the company's name, but the company that bought it, it was clear that their focus wasn't on the patient and the staff.
Yeah.
It was on the profit.
Yeah.
And that's probably why I didn't hang around too long with that, because I could see a lot of the work that I put into was being diminished.
Lost. Yeah.
And that was a frustration. So I'll say no more about that.
That is what it is, and it happens so often, doesn't it? At the end, it's common that happens, and often that's why when there's that kind of company buyout and takeover, it's really important to have some form of handover, like we said earlier, because it tends to create a domino effect with the employees that you've so passionately recruited and kind of sold them what your USP is, and then this new company takes over, changes the goals and the I guess the not the goals but the core values of the business, and it tends to create a domino effect, and people leave.
I'm pretty sure all the existing staff that were with Ecotech then are not with the company now, and that was hard to see, which is why I didn't hang around too long. And then my focus was on music anyway by then.
Oh, I love it. I love that. I absolutely love that. I feel like that business to you is probably what recruitment is to me. Like, it's something that I fell into, that it pays the bills, and it's afforded me the luxury of renovating my house and travelling the world. But Politely Rebellious and JK Wellness are my passion.
And I love the name of that business, Politely Rebellious, because that's kind of a bit like me, really.
What would you say is the most politely rebellious thing you've ever done, actually, talking of that?
Oh, that I can't really say.
Well, it has to be law abiding, so just cut a few things out.
It sickens me the sort of profits and bonuses certain large organisations take. So
But your passion never hurts anybody.
But I'd like to see a fairer world, really. I'm glad that the Tories are no longer in power. For me, and what I was seeing was a lot of greed.
100%. It's been awful, right?
Just the whole PPE scandal. I mean, I'm hoping the new government will reverse certain things. Because I see so many desperate people walking around, driving around, with me personally. What I've noticed more recently, and there must be an escalation, is in shoplifting. And the people, I mean, literally, I suppose the last week I've actually been in a local co-op, and I've seen like 2 or 3 instances.
It's just as brazen, basically.
And all I can feel is a kind of, I don't know, I feel like I want to pay for the products for them. I mean, there was a girl that looked very desperate, and she was obviously seen to be, putting stuff in her bag. And she just looked so desperate. And I just, my heart went out to her, I mean, obviously, I'm not, advocating that sort of activity. That kind of
behaviour, but
if you're hungry,
there's a lot of root causes to some of this behaviour.
It's there's a much bigger picture, really. And I'm not aware of a time where I've seen, firsthand, the number
at
of
that scale. And I think the homelessness as well. I mean, in Portsmouth, it's growing and growing and growing, and it's just absolutely diabolical. The amount of people that are homeless when there are empty buildings, there are hotel rooms, there's so much land that could be built on,
Again, this has come down to greed, and I think I'm just glad that
Labour have come in, and their whole thing is being geared is change, right? That's their kind of mantra that they're shouting. And I think that the change will take time. It did last time Labour took over from Tories. But I mean, personally, I know that Labour taking over from Conservatives during my childhood meant that there were changes implemented that my life would have turned out completely differently had Labour have not come in. So, you know, the Sure Start programme, which is, you know, children who are from council estates who are not being taught their ABs and Cs at home, they could go to these nurseries called Sure Start centres. I was part of that generation. And then there were mentor programmes where the government fully funded mentors who were sent to secondary schools, inner city schools, and mentored young people onto a more positive path. Again, I was a recipient of that service. And then again, I couldn't have gone to university had Labour not have paid for me to do an access to higher education course. All of these things the Conservatives done away with during their recent reign in power. So yeah, 100%. There are people that are desperate and are at the bottom of the food chain. Conservatives don't really give a shit, didn't really give a shit, and hopefully over time these programs that were proven to work will be implemented. Yes, they cost money, but they it's proof. You know, the statistics are there. That they were working. If we can get some of these back in, then fingers crossed, eh?
Everything's crossed. I'm really hoping that the fabric of society will improve. You know, for the very, you know, desperate people. I mean, the role of any government should be to really care for the most vulnerable.
And just to empower
there has to be a parity.
Yeah.
I don't get super rich. I don't understand why people have to collect money. I mean, there are billionaires. What the hell are you going to do with that money?
100%.
Share it.
Yeah, just share it.
Just share it.
I know. Well, you can't do anything with it. Like, once you're 6 feet under, you're 6 feet under, right?
You know, all you're going to do is probably share it with, you know, your closest family, and they're going to be the same, have the same mentality of greed and entitlement. You know, no one's better than anyone else. Really. I mean, you get better guitarists. You get better drummers, and you get better writers. But you know, as a person, you know, we should all
helping to pick each other up, kind of thing. And I think that's what's so beautiful, actually, about Portsmouth. And I know it's something I said quite publicly recently, but the way in which the people of Pompey are standing by each other, helping to pick each other up, helping. You know, support each other on all of the various platforms that are available is one of the most magical things about this city. It's just, you know, and it can't happen with people like you, which is why we're so passionate to have people like you come on.
Thank you. I mean, for me, it's just common sense. I mean, you know, I can only do what I can do with my own resources. The studio is, it's going to be, in the new location, it's going to be. It's going to be great for the community. I mean, it's not just about the recording sessions. We open our doors to work experience. I've booked in 2 pupils, year 10 students, just in the last few days, and that's for next year when it's open. But we've pretty much served all the schools in the area.
So you're doing what you love, and you're doing your pro bono as well, you know, to make sure that you're giving back and doing your bit.
I mean, also we work with the council as well, with some certain individuals, young people that are basically
like at risk.
And also are unteachable, if you like. You know, so they've been permanently excluded. And you know, and in a way that's kind of. You know, that kind of takes you back to my teaching.
It makes sense.
It makes sense. I mean, I'm not going to be going in and stood in front of 30.
Now we know you and we've heard your story. It makes complete sense.
No. I mean, I was passionate about the teaching, but I just ultimately found the discipline. I'm too soft, really.
I
couldn't be a horrible teacher.
And even when it's needed, it's hard, right?
Oh, you know, it's
No, that makes sense. So what we're going to do is ask you some quick fire questions. So there's no right or wrong answer. So I would like to get out of you the most politely rebellious thing that you think you've done.
Well, we should ask me that before.
We can edit, don't we?
Okay. So this wasn't that long ago, actually. And the result is I now can't go to Sainsbury's down the road. I think it was a time when I actually shared the post.
Yeah.
And
Sainsbury's in Farlington.
Yeah. So the committee, I think it was the Sainsbury's CEO. They were questioning why he was paying himself so much bonus.
Right.
When most of the staff were minimum wage.
Right. Valid.
So I'm there next day in Sainsbury's, and I just literally pick up this sandwich.
Yeah.
And I start eating it.
Oh my god.
I'm walking around.
Legend.
I'm walking around the store eating this sandwich.
Yeah.
And obviously this was picked up.
Yeah. But you wanted it to be.
Yeah, I wanted it really.
Yeah.
And it was a great sandwich. I went for the higher end. It was pastrami.
Yeah.
Okay?
It was like a taste of the difference.
It was a taste of difference.
Yeah.
So, and then I put the packet just on the side. I'm just waiting for this. I'm walking out the door, and then, you come with us.
Yeah.
So I'm led to the back into this room, and there's all these people looking at me disapprovingly. And I basically said, well, the reason I'm doing this, because what's happened, what's going on with your, and to be fair, they were actually quite fine about it.
Yeah, well, because they were probably people on minimum wage.
But
right?
I did mention that.
Yeah.
I mentioned that, and I just said, look, this is my way of just
being rebellious.
But
Remotely rebellious.
So I'm not advocating.
Walking into the shop. But do you know what? Right, what that makes me think of is the craziness of the CEO being paid all that money, all of his staff on minimum wage, and actually, I've had girls that have worked at my shop in Drayton who have gone on to work at Sainsbury's and then left because it's apparently a really toxic environment,
right.
Which makes me so sad for them because all of my girls have been incredible girls. But it makes me think of the fact that if that worker on minimum wage needs lunch, they have to bring their own lunch in or pay for their own lunch, right? So they wouldn't be able to just go and grab a sandwich off the side. Thanks, CEO, I've worked really hard today, I'm going to have a sandwich. They'd have to pay like £3.50, £4.50 for the privilege, yeah.
Right.
Or they'd get maybe a little bit of staff discount,
Right.
I know my sister's boyfriend is a delivery driver for Sainsbury's and he's really lucky because he gets 20% off.
Right.
So lucky.
Yeah, it's an unjust world, really. But we can only do our bit in one way or other.
I love that.
So politely rebellious. It's a great. We should all be politely rebellious. But like I said, I'm not advocating shoplifting.
Yeah, not advocating shoplifting. But if you want to go in and just eat the odd sandwich, feel free.
Yeah.
So, what would you say if you had to choose between bands or solo artists? Do you have a preference over like working with certain people or?
I can't really prioritise there.
No,
It's just in terms of
now I've got to know you. I realise that question shouldn't have been on there. You're just too nice.
I mean, you turn to in terms of the music I listen to or work with.
I suppose I mean, I'm thinking more like when you're working, like say when you're in the studio and do you like that kind of one-on-one and seeing a solo artist come out of their shell, or do you love the vibe of like when a band's like all like jamming away together?
Oh no, if they're equally brilliant.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, in terms of music I listen to, they're probably more solo artists because generally soul music are individual artists.
Yeah.
I also like a lot of jazz, and again, it's normally individual artists.
Yeah.
And also classical. I listen to a lot of classical music. I mean, my favourite composer is Debussy. I mean, so I'll probably listen to more individual artists than bands.
Yeah.
Although my favourite band is the Style Council, which is obviously Paul Weller's previous band back in the 80s.
Yeah.
But they were, I mean, I haven't really mentioned, but one of my big passions was when I was 15, got into Northern Soul. And that's got me into sort of like wanting to perform it. And so the Style Council were basically dabbling and
in bits of that.
Yeah, so that
I love that. And what would you say is your favourite instrument?
Piano.
Yeah, because that's what you play, right?
Yeah.
That's your core baby.
Yeah.
I love that. And do you love to be on an electronic, or do you love a full-on grand piano?
Both.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously,
both serve a purpose.
Yeah, and also the my keyboards, they allow me to use different sounds.
Yeah. So
I love the grand piano sound, but also like the Fender Rhodes, which is an electronic piano sound. and also I love the Hammond organ sound. So they're the three kind of sounds I use. Also I like the vibraphone, so I tend to sort of like use these sounds when I'm performing.
Kind of mix it
and you can
all
only do that with a keyboard because you obviously press the right button.
Yeah.
Can't do that on a grand
Nothing
piano.
would happen, right?
Yeah.
Steak or chips? Together, one or the other?
Oh, steak.
Yeah, all day long.
Yeah.
What's your sauce of choice for a steak?
Well, my favourite sauce is chili, but that probably wouldn't go with steak, would it? Probably something cheesy.
Yeah. So
And
not
creamy.
not peppercorn sauce.
No, probably not.
Bit of an alternative. I like that. And Pepsi or Coca-Cola?
Coke,
Yeah.
I think.
Coca-Cola.
Yeah, not that I drink a lot of it, but
no,
yeah.
same. And it's funny though how there are people out there that can, if you put one in each glass and they can tell the absolute difference between Pepsi and Coke. They can tell the difference between a cheap Coke and an expensive Coke.
I know the difference between a Diet Coke and a...
Do you?
Well, I can't stand it.
My husband's like that. He can tell the difference between like Pepsi and Pepsi Max, Coke Zero. I couldn't really.
It has to be the full sugar thing for me.
Yeah, otherwise why bother, right?
Yeah.
Because surely the alternative's got crazy additives in it anyway. So
I don't know, it just tastes vile.
Yeah, tastes like air.
Yeah.
And then finally,
Yep.
are you more of a summer man or a winter man?
Definitely summer.
Summer. I suppose with the gardening and the music, right?
Yeah, and I
everything that
love
collectively
swimming.
brings.
I love
What, sea swimming?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you do the cold sea swimming?
I have done.
Yeah.
I have done.
The hot summer sun.
Yeah. I love swimming in the sea. I mean, obviously there's issues now around
the
pollution.
Sewage. Yay, thank you. Is it Portsmouth Water? So whoever is keep dumping shit literally.
But it's a national issue.
Yeah.
Again, hopefully that's something that the government might look to
crack
improve.
down on.
Yeah.
So what would you say the future holds?
Well, I really want to see the studio reopen next month.
Yeah.
I've got clients booked in.
Oh, everyone must be, as much as you're chomping at the bit, there must be so many people like at the door. You're going to end up at Halloween if you're not open. People like dressed as zombies, like, come on, let us in.
Well, that's
the pressure.
That's all my focus at the moment
Yeah.
is to get the studio up and running.
Yeah.
And then look to be working with lots of existing clients and lots of new clients.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much talent. Out there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and that's amazing. And I must say, just to round up, that and I know I've said it already, but honestly, I'm so grateful that you've come and sat down with me.
Oh,
and
you're welcome.
I totally understand all of the kind of beautiful things that everyone says about you across the city.
Oh, thank you.
And you couldn't ask for a better human and a better soul to be at the forefront of a lot of the music that comes out of this city. So keep up the hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will do.
I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.